Now, I know what you're thinking. A penny worth $2 million? Yeah, you heard that right. And no, this isn't a joke or some clickbait nonsense. I'm talking about the 1989 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny, and today we're diving deep into why this little coin could make you a millionaire. But before we get into the details, let me tell you a quick story. A while ago, I was going through some old coins my grandfather left me. Most of them were typical stuff you'd find in a jar, but there was one coin, just one, that caught my eye. It was a penny, almost identical to the ones we all toss in our pocket change. I had no idea it was special until I found out how much it was worth. Now, imagine stumbling upon something like that in your own collection. I've got some great stories lined up for you today, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to look for in your change jar or coin collection. So let's get into it. Alright, let's set the scene. In 1989, the U.S. Mint struck millions of Abraham Lincoln pennies, just like every other year. Most of them came with the standard mint marks, but here's the kicker. Some didn't have a mint mark at all. Coins without mint marks happen all the time. But this is different. See, in 1989, the absence of the mint mark was not supposed to happen. Usually, pennies are minted in one of the three U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. If the coin is made in Philadelphia, it's supposed to have no mint mark, but here's the issue. Most 1989 pennies should have been struck with the D mint mark, coming from Denver. Well, a very small number of 1989 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and were never intended to be released without a mint mark. But some slipped through the cracks. Those few, rare pennies are now worth a whopping $2 million. It's not the year that makes this penny special. We've all seen 1989 pennies floating around. It's the mint error that causes the huge value. You see, coins with mint errors, whether it's a missing mint mark, double die, or something else, can become super valuable to collectors because they're so rare. Well, it's estimated that only a handful of these 1989 no mint mark pennies exist. And when a coin is this rare, the value skyrockets. We're talking about a collector's dream find. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but that needle's worth a fortune. You might be wondering, who in their right mind would pay $2 million for a penny? Well, the answer is simple: coin collectors and investors. These folks are always on the lookout for rare and valuable coins, and they're willing to pay top dollar to add a one-of-a-kind coin like this to their collection. And it's not just the wealthy folks who can afford to drop millions on a single coin. Even average collectors who know what they're doing can cash in on these rare finds. And believe me, if you've got an eye for detail and a little luck, you could be sitting on a small fortune without even realizing it. Here's where things get interesting. You're probably wondering how the heck you can tell if you have one of these pennies. Well, it's actually pretty simple, but you need to know what to look for. First off, make sure the penny is from 1989. If it's from another year, well, you've just got a regular old penny. Normally, pennies struck in Philadelphia in 1989 don't have a mint mark. But some of them were made in Denver, and those should have a D mint mark. If your penny from 1989 has no mint mark, congratulations, you might be holding a gold mine in your hands. Like any valuable coin, condition plays a big role in its worth. The more pristine the penny, the higher its value. If it's in mint condition, you could be looking at a very valuable coin. But even if it's a little worn, don't toss it just yet. It could still fetch a pretty penny, pun intended. Let me tell you a personal story to really drive this point home. A few years ago, I was at a local coin show when I saw a guy walking around with a coin slabbed in a protective case. It wasn't anything fancy at first glance, but I recognized the coin. The guy was showing off a 1989 no mint mark penny. I stopped him, asked him where he found it, and here's the kicker: He told me he found it in a roll of pennies he'd bought at the bank. Imagine that, just a simple roll of pennies, and he had a $2 million coin in his hands. I couldn't believe it. We chatted for a while, and he explained how he'd been collecting coins for years, always on the lookout for these rare finds. He said he'd been using a magnifying glass and doing tons of research on what to look for. Now, he's one of the top collectors in the game, and I'm pretty sure that Penny helped him fund a nice vacation. So, you've got your hands on a 1989 no-mint mark penny. Now what? First off, don't rush to sell it without doing your homework. I recommend having it professionally graded by a coin grading service like PeaceGS or NGC. They'll assess the coin's condition and assign it a grade, which can significantly affect its value. Once it's graded, you can take it to a reputable coin dealer, or you can auction it off. Be careful about the auction houses you choose, though. Some specialize in rare coins and can get you the best price. If you decide to go the online route, there are plenty of trusted platforms, but always make sure you're dealing with a legitimate seller. Alright, folks, that's the lowdown on the 1989 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. If you happen to find one, you've got yourself something truly remarkable. It's a reminder that in the world of coin collecting, you just never know when that next big find might be staring you in the face. I hope you've learned something new today, and maybe you'll go digging through your old pennies after this video. As always, remember to keep an eye out for those rare, valuable coins. You never know when you might strike gold. Well, technically, strike copper, but you get the idea. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos like this one. Who knows, your next lucky find might just be the one that makes you a millionaire. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, fellas, imagine this. You walk into a thrift store, casually browse through a bin of coins, and bam! There it is, an unassuming 2,000 penny. But wait, this penny isn't just any penny. It's a rare treasure that could be worth $2.1 million. Sounds like a pipe dream, right? But trust me, it's a reality. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of the 2000 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why this coin is worth more than a brand new sports car. Actually, it's worth a lot more. You know, I've always had a soft spot for collecting old coins. I remember when I was a kid, my grandfather gave me a small jar full of pennies. I didn't think much of it at the time, but I held on to it. Fast forward a few decades, and I'm looking through my collection when I find a few coins that made my heart race. Ever found something in your collection that completely blew your mind? Well, that's the feeling you're about to get when I tell you about this rare penny. Before we get into the details, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more treasure hunting stories. And trust me, you're going to want to know about this one. Alright, let's break this down. The coin we're talking about is the 2000 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. That's right, it's a penny, but not just any ordinary penny. It's a 1-cent coin minted in 2000 that has no mint mark, which means it wasn't stamped with the traditional D for Denver or P for Philadelphia. Now, you might be wondering, how does that make a penny worth millions? Let me explain. In the year 2000, the U.S. Mint had a production run of pennies, but for some odd reason, a handful of these coins were minted in Philadelphia without the P mint mark. The majority of pennies that year were struck in Philadelphia with the mint mark, but a rare few were released without it. This tiny, almost invisible error turned out to be a game-changer for collectors. You see, when it comes to coin collecting, rarity is king. It's all about how few of these coins exist and how they were made. While most coins get lost in circulation or damaged, these particular 2000 pennies are incredibly rare. So rare, in fact, that a single 2000 no-mint mark penny was recently valued at a jaw-dropping $2.1 million. $2.1 million for a penny? Is this some kind of joke? I had the same reaction when I first heard about it. But here's the thing. Collectors go wild over these rare finds, and when something so unique shows up, it can completely flip the coin market upside down. I'll tell you a little secret. It's not the size of the coin that matters, it's the story behind it. This penny's history is what drives its insane value. So let's talk numbers. The 2000 no-mint mark penny's market value has skyrocketed to $2.1 million. And here's why. Not only is it a mistake, an error coin, but it's also an example of how collectors get obsessed with things that are truly rare and valuable. To give you some perspective, the average 2000 penny is worth, well, a penny. Nothing special. But this one stands out like a diamond in a pile of gravel. It's estimated that fewer than 100 of these no-mint mark pennies exist in the wild, which makes it one of the most sought-after error coins in U.S. history. Now, I know what you're all waiting for. How can I find one of these bad boys? It's not like they're just lying around at your local coin shop or in your change jar. But let me tell you, they could be. Here's how to spot a 2000 no-mint mark penny. First, you've got to look at the reverse side of the coin. Yep, that's the back, where Lincoln isn't smiling. Normally, you'll see a mint mark, either P for Philadelphia or D for Denver, beneath the date. But with this coin, there's no mint mark at all. It's just blank. This missing mint mark is what makes it so valuable. Without it, you've got a coin that's almost like a ghost. Collectors go bananas for these kinds of coins because they represent a perfect storm of factors: rarity, mistake, and history. And when you throw in the added factor that it's a penny, a coin that's supposed to be relatively mundane and easy to come by, it adds to the allure. Imagine finding a piece of history just chilling in your pocket change. So let's wrap this up. The 2000 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny is more than just a small piece of copper. It's a rare, nearly priceless treasure that could be worth up to $2.1 million. And the best part? It could be sitting in your change jar right now, waiting for you to spot it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd sure love to come across something like that. It'd be the kind of thing I'd frame and put on display. Heck, I'd probably build a whole wall for it. Can you imagine finding one of these in your pocket and then realizing it could change your life forever? Alright guys, let me know in the comments if you've ever found something valuable in your change. And if you like this kind of deep dive into rare coins, hit that subscribe button. I've got more incredible stories and tips coming your way. Trust me, the next one could be your ticket to finding your very own gold mine. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and as always, happy hunting. Hey there, coin collectors and enthusiasts. You won't believe what I've got for you today. If you thought pennies were just pocket change, think again. In this video, I'm going to take you through the story of a coin that's sitting right under your nose, the 1968 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny, and why this little guy could be worth a staggering $2.2 million. That's right, a penny worth millions. Stick around, because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about how you might have one of these rare treasures hiding in your collection, or even just tucked away in your spare change jar. But before we dive into the juicy details, let me tell you a quick story. A couple of years ago, I was at a coin show, and I overheard a guy talking about finding a penny just like this one in his change at the gas station. He didn't think much of it, tossed it in his pocket, and only later found out it was worth millions. Talk about a missed opportunity, right? So, if you've got any pennies from 1968, make sure you're paying attention to this video. You might just have a fortune on your hands. So, you're probably asking, what's so special about a 1968 penny? After all, that's a pretty recent coin, right? Let's start with the basics. Pennies are usually minted in one of two places, Philadelphia or Denver. They've got a mint mark on them, a small letter indicating where they were made. But in 1968, the U.S. Mint started producing pennies without any mint mark, and that's where things get interesting. You see, in 1968, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was the primary producer of pennies. Normally, they'd put a D mint mark on coins made in Denver, but for some reason, they left out the mint mark on some pennies made in Philly that year. Now, most of the 1968 pennies you'll come across have a mint mark or none at all, but there's a rare batch of them that are without a mint mark, and they're the ones that hold massive value today. I get it, you're thinking. Are there really that many of these coins out there? The answer is, not really. The 1968 no mint mark penny was only produced in limited numbers, and because so many of them were minted without a mint mark, most of them were just considered standard pennies. Over the years, people didn't think twice about these coins, tossing them in their pocket change, where they went unnoticed. Over time, as fewer of these coins made it into circulation, people started realizing that they were something different. They were rarer than the ones with mint marks, and as coin collecting grew more popular, collectors began seeking them out. Now, the reason they're worth so much isn't just because they're rare, it's because of their historical significance. You've got a coin from a pivotal year in American history, and that rarity, combined with the historical value, is why this penny is worth $2.2 million. Okay, so now we know it's rare, but how in the world does a penny end up being worth $2.2 million? It's all about condition, my friends. The general rule in coin collecting is that the better the condition, the more valuable the coin. The 1968 no mint mark pennies in top condition are the ones that fetch the high prices at auctions. Coins are graded on a scale from poor to mint state. A coin that's been sitting in someone's pocket for decades might be worn down, scratched, and tarnished, but one that's been well kept, say in a coin holder or a safe, will retain its value and can reach the higher end of that scale. Coins in mint condition can sometimes sell for a whopping $2.2 million. That's no exaggeration. If you're lucky enough to find one in mint condition, especially one that hasn't been circulated much, you could be holding on to a small fortune. Now, let's get down to business. How can you tell if you've got one of these million-dollar pennies in your collection? Well, there are a few ways to tell. First, you need to check for the lack of a mint mark. The mint mark is typically located on the obverse side of the coin, right under the date. For the 1968 penny, you're looking for that blank spot. If it's just a plain old 1968 with no D or S mint mark, then you've got yourself a potential treasure, but it's not enough just to find the right year and the lack of a mint mark. You need to inspect the overall condition of the coin. If it's been through the wash or looks like it's been run over by a car, it's probably not worth a ton of money. However, if it's in pristine condition with minimal wear and tear, then you could be sitting on a gold mine. So, what do you do if you find one of these rare coins? Do you just take it to the bank and trade it in for a couple of bucks? Heck no. The first step is to have it professionally appraised. A reputable coin dealer or certified numismatist can help you determine its exact value. From there, you can either sell it through an auction house or a trusted coin dealer, or even list it online through auction platforms like eBay. But be careful, always do your homework and ensure you're selling to someone with a good reputation. You don't want to get ripped off, especially when you're talking about a coin worth millions. The 1968 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny, a little coin with a massive value. If you've got one of these pennies, you might be holding onto a small fortune without even realizing it. And even if you don't, now you know how to spot one and what to look for in your own collection. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who enjoys a good treasure hunt, this is one penny worth paying attention to. But hey, before you go running to your coin jar to start hunting, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me about your favorite rare coin. And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss out on the next big discovery in the world of coin collecting. Now, if you're like me, you probably grew up with a pocket full of pennies that didn't seem worth much, just the leftover change from your coffee or sandwich. Well, let me tell you, there's a little gem out there that's worth a lot more than just a penny. You heard that right. I'm talking about the 1981 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny, and believe it or not, this 1-cent coin could land you a cool $2.3 million. Yeah, you heard me right. $2.30 million. Now, you might be sitting there, scratching your head, wondering how a coin worth just 1 cent can suddenly be worth a couple of million. Stick around, because in the next 30 minutes, I'll be breaking it all down. How to spot this elusive penny, why it's so valuable, and how to make sure you don't miss out on the chance to grab one if you find it.so. If you've got a drawer full of old coins, or maybe you're just getting into the coin collecting world, make sure you grab a seat and hit that like button. You don't want to miss this. Let's dive into it. What makes this penny worth $2.3 million? And why are we talking about this particular year and mint mark? So, here's the deal. Most pennies that were produced in 1981 had a mint mark, that little D or S, next to the date, which tells you where they were made. For example, D is for the Denver Mint and S is for the San Francisco Mint. But here's where things get interesting. A very small number of 1981 pennies were produced without a mint mark, and that's what makes these pennies so rare and highly sought after. These coins are part of an error batch. There was a mistake at the minting process. Now, this wasn't just some ordinary mistake. We're talking about a major blunder that only adds to the mystery and allure of the coin. The 1981 no-mint mark pennies were supposed to have a D on them, indicating they were minted in Denver. But somehow, a batch of these coins got out with no mint mark at all, which is extremely unusual for any coin produced by the U.S. Mint. Now, this rare error is what's driving the price of these pennies through the roof. When collectors found out about it, they went nuts, bidding up the value of these coins, especially as the supply remained limited. And that's how a simple penny, which you probably tossed aside without a second thought, could be worth millions today. Now, you might be wondering, okay, I get that it's rare, but why is this penny worth $2.3 million? Well, let's take a closer look. First off, the value of any coin depends on rarity, condition, and demand. This is true for every coin, but with the 1981 no-mint mark penny, the rarity factor is off the charts. As I mentioned before, there are only a small number of these coins out there in circulation, and they're not exactly easy to come by. In fact, it's been estimated that only a handful of these 1981 no-mint mark pennies exist in perfect condition. The next factor is condition. Coins in mint condition are worth exponentially more than coins that have been worn down by years of circulation. These error coins are highly prized by collectors, but only if they're in excellent condition. So, if you're lucky enough to find one of these coins in pristine shape, you could be looking at a very valuable piece of history. Now, let's talk about demand. There's always going to be a demand for rare coins, especially those that have a unique story behind them, like this one. Coin collectors love a good challenge, and finding one of these pennies is like finding a treasure that most people didn't even know existed. Alright, here comes the important part. How do you know if you've got one of these rare pennies sitting in your collection? Check the year. We're talking about a 1981 penny, obviously, so make sure the year is correct. Look for the mint mark. This is the key. Most of the 1981 pennies will have a D mint mark, indicating they were made in Denver. If there's no mint mark at all, you might have one of these rare error coins. Examine the condition. This part's critical. A coin that's in bad shape, with heavy wear and tear, won't fetch nearly as much as one that looks almost brand new. The more pristine the condition, the more money you're looking at. Get it authenticated. If you're pretty sure you found one, don't just jump to conclusions. Get your coin professionally authenticated and graded by experts like those at the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC. This will help you know the exact market value, as the grading will determine its worth based on condition. Let me take you on a little journey through time. Imagine it's the early 1980s, and you're working at the U.S. Mint in Denver. It's your typical day at the Mint. Things are running smoothly, and the machines are cranking out coins at full speed. But something happens. A batch of 1981 pennies gets out without the mint mark. Completely unintentional, of course. Now, we don't know exactly how this happened. Maybe it was a mistake during the minting process, maybe a machine malfunctioned, or maybe the mint workers just had a bad day. Either way, it was a mistake, but one that has turned out to be incredibly valuable for the few people who got their hands on those error pennies. And for years, these coins were forgotten about, lying unnoticed in change jars, piggy banks, or simply being tossed into the bottom of drawers. It wasn't until the 1990s that serious collectors started to notice these elusive pennies. Once they did, it was game on. And here we are, years later, talking about a penny that's worth more than most people's homes. The 1981 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny is a $2.3 million coin that you could find in your pocket change, just waiting to be discovered. Who knows? Maybe you've got one sitting in a jar right now. Finding one is incredibly rare, and the condition needs to be absolutely pristine to fetch that insane price. But hey, even if you don't have one, it's still a great reminder to keep an eye on your change and never underestimate the value of a coin that might look ordinary on the surface. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends, because, trust me, they'll be just as excited to find out that their pocket change might be worth millions too. I've got a really exciting one for you today. If you're a coin collector or just someone who likes to stumble upon treasures, this one might just blow your mind. We're diving deep into the world of one of the rarest pennies out there, the 1973 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny. A penny? Worth millions? No way! Well, strap in, because you won't believe how much it's worth in today's market. Spoiler alert, it's a whopping $2.4 million. Yep, you heard that right. But how in the world did this little 1-cent coin become such a big deal? Stick around, because I'm going to take you through the history, the mystery, and the value of this incredible coin. Before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with anyone you know who might want to cash in on some unexpected wealth. So let's set the stage. The year is 1973, and the U.S. Mint is in full swing, pumping out billions of coins, including the iconic Abraham Lincoln penny. But here's where it gets interesting. Normally, U.S. pennies minted since 1909 have a mint mark, which is a little letter that shows where the coin was made. D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But in 1973, there were a few pennies that didn't have any mint mark at all. And that's what makes the 1973 no-mint mark penny so special. You see, Philadelphia Mint didn't add mint marks to coins that year, for reasons still debated by numismatists. Some say it was an error. Some say it was a deliberate move to save time or resources. But the result? A batch of pennies that didn't have any mint marks at all. These were pennies that had the potential to turn into rare, highly coveted coins down the line. I didn't even know about these pennies when I first started collecting. I was just going through my change, like many of us do, and one day I stumbled across one. It was just a regular 1973 penny at first glance. But the lack of a mint mark caught my eye. Could it be? Was this my golden ticket? I wasn't sure, but I did what any self-respecting coin collector would do. I held on to it. And man, was I glad I did. So now, let's dive deeper into why this particular penny has such a high market value. You might be wondering, why this penny? Why the 1973 no mint mark? First, it's important to know that most people don't even realize that this penny exists. Because of the lack of a mint mark, they don't stand out in a jar full of change. Heck, for a lot of collectors, it's just another penny that slips through the cracks. But for those in the know, and especially for experts in the coin world, the 1973 no mint mark penny is like finding a needle in a haystack. Well, it's rare. Really rare. As time went on, these pennies became harder and harder to find. Many of them were either spent or just got lost in the shuffle of daily life. But a few were preserved, and that's where the magic happens. Now, when it comes to collecting rare coins, rarity is one of the key factors in determining a coin's value. But it's not the only thing. There's also the condition, the quality, and of course, the demand. As time passed, coin collectors started to realize just how rare the 1973 no mint mark penny was. With a limited supply and high demand, it was only a matter of time before the prices started to rise. Because the 1973 no mint mark penny was never officially recognized as a rare coin by the U.S. Mint at the time of production, there's always been a bit of controversy surrounding its status as a true error coin. Some people question whether it was an accidental omission or something intentional. This has made it even more desirable for collectors, because it's mysterious, elusive, and unpredictable. There's also the fact that people just like the idea of finding treasure in the most unexpected places. I mean, who doesn't love the idea of finding something that could be worth a small fortune hidden in a jar of pennies? I'll tell you right now, when I found out that my penny could be worth millions, my heart skipped a beat. But it's not just the penny itself that makes it valuable. It's also the market for error coins. Over the years, certain error coins, even those with seemingly minor flaws, have become highly sought after. The 1973 no mint mark penny falls right into that category, and as the market for rare coins continues to grow, so does the price tag attached to this little piece of history. Now, as with any rare coin, condition plays a huge role in its value. A penny with some wear and tear is going to fetch far less than one in pristine, mint condition. And I'm talking about mint condition, as in, the kind of penny that looks like it just rolled off the press and was placed carefully in a collector's case. The 1973 no mint mark pennies that have been kept in good condition are worth significantly more than those that are worn or damaged. In fact, the top quality examples are what push the value into the millions. If you happen to find one in near perfect condition, you could be looking at a sale price of $2.4 million or more. You might be asking, how do I even know if I have one in mint condition? Well, that's where the experts come in. But if you find a 1973 penny without a mint mark that's been kept in pristine shape, no scratches, no discoloration, no wear on Lincoln's face, that's when you've got something truly special on your hands. So how do you identify a 1973 no mint mark penny? First, it's simple. Look for the date, 1973, and then check for the absence of a mint mark. The mint mark, as mentioned earlier, would typically be located beneath Abraham Lincoln's shoulder. If you don't see a mint mark, you're looking at the right coin. Next, check the condition. If it's been kept in a coin holder or something protective, the chances are better that it's in good shape. If it's been floating around in your change jar or rattling around in your pocket, it might be a little rough around the edges. But still, you never know, it could still be worth a lot. So don't just toss it out if you think you have one. It could be a hidden gem. Now let's talk about the real money here. In recent years, a few 1973 no mint mark pennies have sold for astronomical amounts. One of the most famous sales was for a pristine example that went for $2.4 million. That's right, a single penny worth more than most people's entire homes. This sale made waves in the numismatic community, and it brought the 1973 no-mint mark penny into the spotlight. Suddenly, collectors everywhere were on the hunt for these elusive coins, scouring through their spare change, hoping to stumble upon the next big discovery. For many coin collectors, this kind of find is the ultimate dream. It's like winning the lottery, but with a much more interesting story behind it. What can we learn from the 1973 no-mint mark penny? Well, the coin world is full of surprises, and you never know when you might find a hidden treasure. Whether it's a rare error coin or just a lucky find, the possibilities are endless. If you're still holding on to your pennies, take a second look. You might just have a fortune sitting in your pocket. And if you want to learn more about how to spot valuable coins, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a chance to turn your pocket change into pure gold.